Have you ever noticed how someone who started investing with just a few thousand $20 years ago seems wealthier than someone who's been dumping massive amounts into their portfolio for the past 5 years? Or maybe you've watched that coworker who started with practically nothing build serious wealth while you're still trying to figure out when the right time to start investing actually is. Well, here's something that's going to mess with your head. Your first $10,000 invested is mathematically and psychologically more valuable than your next $100,000. And I'm not being dramatic. I can prove it with numbers that'll change how you think about getting started. My name is Mike, and I've spent way too much analyzing why people who start small end up crushing people who wait to start big. If you want to understand why that first $10,000 is the most important money you'll ever invest, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it changes your perspective on building wealth. Here's what most people get completely wrong about investing. They think the game is about how much money you can throw at the market. They're waiting until they can invest serious money before they start. They tell themselves, I'll start investing when I have $50,000 saved up, or once I pay off my debt, then I'll get serious about this. And while they're waiting, someone else is investing their first $500 and building something they can never catch up to. Let me show you exactly what I mean with some numbers that are going to feel unfair. Let's say you invest your first $10,000 at age 25. You never add another dollar. Not one more contribution. That money just sits there earning an average 8% annual return. By the time you're 65, that initial $10,000 has turned into about $217,000. Just from that first 10 grand. You literally never touched it again for 40 years, and it multiplied itself by 21 times. Now let's say someone else waits until they're 45 to start investing. They've got their life together now. They're making good money. They dump $100,000 into the market all at once. That's 10 times more than you invested. But they only have 20 years until retirement. That $100,000 grows to about $466,000 by age 65. Sure, they end up with more total dollars, but look at what happened. They had to invest 10 times more money to get only about twice the return. Their money multiplied by less than 5 times while yours multiplied by 21 times. This is the part that most people don't understand until it's too late. The early money works so much harder than the late money. Every dollar you invest in your 20s is worth multiple dollars you'd have to invest in your 40s to get the same result. Time is literally a multiplier on your money that nothing else can replace. But here's where this gets really interesting. That first $10,000 isn't just valuable because of the mathematical compounding. It's valuable because of what it does to your brain. When you invest your first real chunk of money, something fundamental shifts in how you think about wealth. You stop being someone who thinks about investing and become someone who actually does it. And that identity shift is worth more than the money itself. Think about it this way. The person who's never invested doesn't really understand how markets work. They might read about it or hear about it, but they don't feel it. They don't experience checking their account and seeing it went up $500 while they slept. They don't live through a market crash and watch their portfolio drop 20% and then recover. They don't learn the emotional discipline required to not panic sell when things get scary. But once you put in that first $10,000, you're in the game. You start paying attention to financial news differently. You understand what people mean when they talk about bull markets and corrections. You develop the psychological muscles required to build serious wealth. And you can't develop those muscles without actually having skin in the game. Here's something else that happens with that first $10,000 that most people completely overlook. It proves to you that you're capable of saving and investing real money. Before you had $10,000 invested, saving money was this abstract concept. Maybe you had a few hundred or a few thousand in savings, but $10,000 feels different. It's substantial. It's proof that you can actually do this wealth building thing. And once you've done it once, you can do it again. Getting from $0 to $10,000 is way harder psychologically than getting from $10,000 to $20,000. Because you've already proven you can do it. You've already built the habits. You've already made the sacrifices. The second $10,000 is just doing what you already know how to do. This is why people who hit their first $10,000 invested often accelerate dramatically after that. They're not just adding money to an account anymore. They're feeding a system they've proven works. They're adding fuel to a fire that's already burning. Meanwhile, the person who's still trying to figure out how to save their first thousand is still in theory mode. They haven't proven anything to themselves yet. Let me give you another angle on this that's going to sound controversial, but it's absolutely true. Your first $10,000 invested matters more than your next $100,000 because it determines whether you'll ever invest that next $100,000 at all. Most people never get past the starting line. They spend their entire lives thinking about investing, planning to invest, waiting for the right time to invest, but they never actually invest real money. The difference between someone with $10,000 invested and someone with zero invested isn't just $10,000. It's that one person has overcome the psychological barrier of actually starting while the other person is still trapped in preparation mode. And that barrier is massive. It's the difference between people who build wealth and people who just talk about building wealth. Here's the uncomfortable reality. The person waiting to invest $100,000 all at once is usually just scared. They're using "I need more money first" as an excuse to avoid the psychological discomfort of actually putting money at risk in the market. They're afraid of making a mistake or investing at the wrong time or looking stupid if the market crashes right after they invest. So they wait. And while they wait, they're losing years of compounding that they can never get back. But the person who invests their first $10,000, even if it's uncomfortable, even if they're not sure it's the perfect time, they've overcome that fear. They've accepted that investing means taking risk. They've accepted that the market will go up and down, and that's just part of the process. And that acceptance is what separates people who build wealth from people who don't. Now let's talk about what that first $10,000 teaches you that no amount of reading or research can teach you. It teaches you about volatility. When you actually have money invested and you watch it drop 10% in a week, you learn something about your own risk tolerance that you couldn't learn any other way. You learn whether you're the type of person who panics and sells, or whether you can stay calm and hold through the storm. This is incredibly valuable information about yourself. Because if you learn this lesson with $10,000, the cost of that education is manageable. If you panic and sell at the bottom, you might lose a couple $1,000s. That sucks, but you can recover from it. But if you wait until you have $100,000 invested to learn this lesson about yourself, now panic selling could cost you $20,000 or $30,000. The tuition for that lesson just got way more expensive. The person who invested their first $10,000 in their 20s has probably been through multiple market cycles by their 40s. They've seen crashes and recoveries. They've learned when to buy more and when to just hold steady. They've developed the emotional discipline that makes them a better investor. Meanwhile, the person who waited until their 40s to invest their first $100,000 is learning these lessons for the first time with much higher stakes. Here's another thing that first $10,000 does that people don't appreciate until later. It creates options in your life way before you think it should. Even $10,000 invested gives you a tiny bit of breathing room. Maybe you can afford to take a slightly lower-paying job that you actually enjoy because you know you've got some invested money working for you. Maybe you can take a month off between jobs without completely panicking about money. These might seem like small things, but they're actually huge for your quality of life and your career development. The person with zero invested doesn't have these options. They're completely dependent on their next paycheck. They can't afford to take any risks or make any moves that might benefit them long-term. They're trapped by their lack of invested capital. And as that $10,000 grows into $20,000, then $50,000, then $100,000, those options expand dramatically. But you can't get to $100,000 without first getting to $10,000. And most people never take that first step. Let's talk about something that's going to make this even more real. Every single month that you delay investing your first $10,000, you're not just delaying the investment. You're delaying the entire trajectory of your wealth building. Because that first $10,000 isn't just going to compound on itself. It's going to teach you habits that lead to the next $10,000 and the next and the next. If you invest your first $10,000 this year, maybe in 3 years you've got $30,000 invested. In 6 years, you've got $75,000. In 10 years, you've got $150,000. But if you wait 5 years to invest that first $10,000, you're not just 5 years behind. You're potentially decades behind because you delayed the entire learning curve and habit formation that comes with being an actual investor. Here's what really bothers me about people who are waiting to invest larger amounts. They think they're being smart and strategic. They think they're being responsible by waiting until they have more money. But what they're actually doing is overthinking themselves out of the most valuable financial decision they could make, which is just getting started. The person who invests $10,000 imperfectly today is going to be wealthier in 20 years than the person who waits 5 years to invest $30,000 perfectly. The imperfect start beats the perfect delay every single time. And I mean every time. There is no scenario where waiting to invest more money beats starting to invest smaller amounts earlier. But people don't believe this because the numbers seem too simple. They think there must be some trick or some optimal strategy they're missing. So they keep researching and planning and preparing. And while they're doing that, the person who just started with whatever they had is building actual wealth. Let me tell you what that first $10,000 really represents. It represents the transition from someone who consumes their entire income to someone who invests part of their income. And that transition is the single most important financial shift you'll ever make in your entire life. It's more important than getting a raise. It's more important than getting a better job. It's more important than any individual investment choice you'll make. Because once you've made that transition, once you've proven you can live on less than you earn and invest the difference, you've unlocked the only formula that actually builds wealth. Earn money, spend less than you earn, invest the difference consistently over time. That's it. That's the whole game. But most people never actually do it. They know about it, but they don't do it. Your first $10,000 invested is proof that you're actually doing it. And once you've done it once, you can keep doing it. You can scale it up as your income grows. You can optimize it and refine it. But you can't scale up or optimize something you haven't started. So if you're sitting here thinking about whether you should wait until you have more money saved up before you start investing, let me make this really clear. The answer is no. You should not wait. You should start now with whatever you have. If you've got $10,000 saved, invest it. If you've got $5,000, invest that. If you've got $1,000, that's your starting point. Because that first investment isn't just about the money. It's about changing your identity from someone who thinks about investing to someone who actually invests. It's about starting the compounding process that will work in your favor for the rest of your life. It's about proving to yourself that you can do this. Every day you wait is a day of compounding you're giving up. Every week you delay is growth you'll never get back. And every month you spend preparing to invest instead of actually investing is costing you more than you realize. The perfect time to invest your first $10,000 was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. Today. This week. Not next month after you do more research. Not next year after you save more money. Now. Your first $10,000 matters more than your next $100,000 because it determines whether that next $100,000 will ever exist. Start small. Start imperfectly. But start. Your future self will thank you.